Good evening. I'd like to call the City of Menasha Common Council meeting to order. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could we have roll call, please?
Alderman Spencer. Here. Alderman Benner. Here. Alderman Nichols. Here. Alderman Taylor. Alderman Kraut-Kramer. Here. Alderman Oshesky. Here. Alderman Keehan. Here. Alderman Zielinski. Here.
The first item on the agenda this evening is a public hearing. It's a special use permit by Creative Sign Company on behalf of Festival Foods for a business center sign located at 1405 Oneida Street in Menasha. Director Kyle, could you tell us a little bit about this?
Yes, a special use permit is required for a business center sign. Essentially, it's signage that enables off-premise identification of other businesses, which would not be permissible under our regular C1 or C2 sort of commercial zoning. So Festival has applied for the business center sign. It will be identifying, I believe, 4 different parcels and the development within those parcels. This item was held in Plan Commission pending some clarification on the exact location of the sign, as well as the relationship of the festival parcel as the parent parcel relative to those others that are contained within that business campus. So the Plan Commission will be considering that special use permit again tomorrow evening, and it will be coming back to the council on the 15th.
So at this point, is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment on the special use permit for the Festival Foods Business Center sign?
Sandra DeBill Taylor, 545 Broad Street. I had a hard time hearing Greg, so I'm not quite sure if my question was, no, first of all, I just want to clarify, my comments have no reflection on Festival Foods. I think it's a great organization. It's wonderful that they're coming to our community. To the best of my knowledge, this is going to be immediately affect our tax base. It's not part of a TIF district. The residents on the east side are going to greatly benefit, so I welcome them. But I did have 2 comments. My first was, I noticed that there were a public hearing scheduled for tonight and previously at the Plan Commission, and now it's also going to be done in 2 weeks from now. And I was kind of wondering if something had drastically changed, that they had to reschedule a second public hearing, or if something was forgotten or something was bypassed or adjacent property owners weren't notified or something came up. So that was my first question. My second comment was just basically with our signage ordinance in general, it appears to me that every time a business enters our community, they're asking for a special use permit to modify our ordinance. And I can understand from a business point of view, they want the most visibility they can get. They want it up on a pole. They want LED lights. They want scrolling signs. And to me, it makes kind of a hodgepodge of summer monument. Then we give a special permit for this one. Then, you have the old signage. And you end up with what we currently have on Appleton Road 47, where you're just looking all over the place for signage. I don't know if our ordinance needs to be revamped, or if we need to just stick to our guns and say, no, in this area, we're sticking with monument. We're not going to have, so we have a cohesive look. This is all new development. And the other problem I see is that we set a precedent. Now, the next business that comes along, if we give it to one, they're going to want it. Or how do you tell CVS or Stone Toad, you can't have a pole sign? So I'm just asking that what we do for one business, we consider that for the next business, and I welcome Festival. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to comment on the festival signage? Director Kyle, did you want to comment on some of those items? Because I think that there are some answers to those.
Sure. There was a number of things with regard to the hearing notice. We determined after we had published, the request was made by Festival Foods for the business center sign, but the sign is actually proposed to be located in an easement on a different parcel, the adjacent parcel that's owned by the Bird Credit Union. So that was the reason for republishing the notice. With regard to the special use permit, business center signs are identified separately in our zoning code, and due to the sort of the special circumstance associated with a business center, we don't have obviously a lot of them, but there are a few instances where there are several parcels that are under a common theme of development. Some of them may not have access onto the principal street. An example would be like the Kenwood Center on Midway Road. This site where there's multiple parcels, some of which have access onto Oneida Street, others that don't. And as far as our signage standards, the festival sign will be a monument sign. They have asked for a marginally larger monument sign in this instance, but what would be presumably granted under a special use permit would not be something that could be readily replicated by other businesses. The example of CVS was cited. They already have a monument sign. They are not a business campus, and hence they would not be eligible for this type of consideration.
Seeing no one else for the special use permit for the festival food sign, we'll call that hearing to a close, and we'll go on to the public hearing for the proposed on-street bike ped route through Doty Island as part of the Loop the Lake Trail project. Director Tungate?
So our plan was to play a short 2-minute video. I think it does a nice job of sort of laying the background to the project. And if someone wants to catch the lights, do the video, and then maybe a few short staff remarks, and then we'll, I guess, get into any public comment.
I grew up in the same house that my grandmother grew up in, and my mom still lives there today. And just this spring, she decided she wanted to pay for a bench and have a bench dedicated to her and her husband, my dad. Having the trail available to her gave her a sense of confidence, gave her a sense of security, as well as fun and freedom. It's just such a wonderful amenity for the community. Walking on it or on a bike, I've personally had the chance to enjoy this trail, and I can't wait for it to be completed. It will provide a single way that I can go through it and enjoy it. I just feel that something like this really adds to the cultural and economic vitality of the area.
It's not just symbolic in terms of this bridge connecting the two cities. It brings a better quality of involvement and, again, of opportunities for people to get to know each other better. This will help tourism. This will help businesses in the downtowns of both Neenah and Menasha.
Huge impact on our store. It's our business, bicycles. When you can add more trails or pathways to downtown, people are more prone to use it. Getting more and more people out on the trail, enjoying the atmosphere, enjoying the community, bringing more people downtown in general just helps everybody.
I think you will get a number of people that just will take a day out just to do an adventure, you know, just to go out and say, let's see what's on the trail.
It's very exciting just because we've been looking for more foot traffic down here, and just to loop it all the way around would just be overall really, really awesome.
We just love being able to keep ourselves healthy and active, and these kinds of trails are what really help thousands of people keep their own lifestyles active.
In the summer and the evenings when it's nice, we like to bike. I run on the trails as well sometimes when the time permits. From an event perspective, the new trestles would provide, an organization with an entire race loop that you could utilize for the course. By adding these couple new trestles, we'll really be able to feature the Nina Menasha part of the trails in the Fox Cities.
The trail is something that one person can enjoy or an entire family can enjoy, then it really doesn't matter what community you live in.
I can go for a run with my daughter around the loop, and it's a good workout. Or I can go with my wife, and we can go for a walk around the loop. I would say it's a great quality of life thing. It's an easy decision for me to donate towards it.
It's amazing what you'll see out here, and the people, everyone smiles when they're out here. They don't smile when they're in their car. You see, nobody smiles in their car. But out here, everybody smiles. You look at them, you talk to people differently, you look at people differently, you see everything differently out here. In here, it's different. It's just completely different.
So this video was produced by Future Nina several months ago. They're using it for their fundraising effort. And to date, it's my understanding they're doing quite well. I believe they're at around about the 60% mark of fundraising towards their $1 million goal. A couple other things that are going on. We've soil borings have been done for the two trestle bridges, and so we're in the process of having those evaluated and just see what type of bridge footings that we're going to be needing for the two bridges. So the reason we brought this route idea forward was, it's a little bit unusual to bring a bike route forward. We don't really generally do that through the Planning Commission and Park Board and ultimately through the council here, but I guess we thought that this was a significant enough project and that we should do this. We just thought it was the right thing to do. Back in July, we met with the Shepherd Park neighbors there, and there were some issues that came up there, and so we wanted to really give that everybody a complete ability to air their feelings on the route itself, and so that's why we just a couple weeks ago the Park Board and Plan Commission met, and we made a joint recommendation, and there's a motion in your packet tonight. I can tell you that Nina has already taken their step in this route action. Back in December, they designated the route up to Abbey Street, and I guess we really need this finalized so Future Nina can move ahead with their fundraising and sponsorships and that sort of thing. Plus, we just want some, I guess, finalization to the route itself. So in the printed brochures and so forth, we can move forward with that with some certainty. This project, as was pointed out at the joint meeting a couple weeks ago, it is in our comprehensive plan. It is in the city's rec plan. So I guess we're on record as believing in this project is important for the city. So enough of me, I guess. And I don't know if Greg wants to say anything, or I guess it's time to hear from the folks that are here tonight.
Director Tedigate, do you just want to go through what the actual route is, and then we'll open it up to the public?
Yes.
Starting at the current trestle, and then
at the
bend at the current trestle.
Oh, okay. Coming from north to south.
North to south, sure.
Yeah, north to south. Okay, so folks who are familiar with the trestle trail itself, it's where the land trail sort of hits the boardwalk trail. It will the new trail will sort of fork off of that area right there, and will come across the channel of the Fox River, the northern channel that goes around Doty Island. It's about a 700-foot or so trestle bridge that will come to the Mathewson Street right-of-way. And one of the stipulations in the motion was we want to hug that approach or that part of the trail to the eastern side of Mathewson Street as much as we can, trying to be sensitive to the neighbors in that area. So it'll land at Mathewson Street. It will, I guess, make a left turn onto Fox Street, and it'll, I'm sorry, it'll be, yeah, onto Fox Street, Mathewson to Fox, and then to Lawson Street. It'll come south on Lawson Street all the way to Abbey Street, and that's where the Neenah route picks up at that point. A couple other things that were in the motion was also, they talked about the signage. Both, I guess, Neenah and Park Board Plan Commission felt that signage would be sufficient on there. They did sort of leave it open if we needed to do sharrows or something painted on the road, that would be an option. And then they also left open for the future. You know, we had a pretty lengthy discussion on the alternate route. The alternate route being going along really the behind the water treatment plant, sort of the off-road route, if you will. And you know, I think there are some folks on those two boards that like that option, but I guess for now the direct route seemed to be the one that they preferred, and so that was the one that they made in their recommendation.
So with that, we'll open it up to the public. If anyone from the public would like to comment on the route for the Loop to Lake project going through Doty Island, you could state your name and address for the
Byron
record,
Kritzky,
please.
84 Mathewson Street. The only question I have about that is how close are you getting any details done with the Canadian National Railroad on the northern edge? Because I know this weekend they've had boxcars parked there the whole entire weekend where the bridge is going to be crossing the river. And I was just wondering if you have any thing from Canadian National Railroad yet.
We'll answer all the questions at the end. Is there anyone else?
My name's Tim Ghost, 98 Fox Street. Well, I do appreciate some of the things that have been done already. I think one issue that has not been addressed is parking. With the route, that Fox Street trestle is going to be a trailhead, and there's going to be, I mean, I hear it called a bike trail, but I mean, I think you get far more walkers and fishermen on the trails than you do bikes for the most part, and there's going to be a lot of fishermen there, and they have a nightmare down on the end of Broad Street with parking because it was never thought of or never taken care of when the project was put in. And I'd really like to see that issue taken care of prior to approving the project or the route. Get some parking taken care of there so that it's not going to be a nightmare for the residents that live in that area. Thank you.
Thanks. Is there anyone else?
Tim Jones, I'm with Fox Cities Greenways. We're an advocacy group for trails and greenways in the Fox Cities. We did take a look at both the routes, and we found both of them to be pretty satisfactory. I'm just going to talk a little bit about connectivity. The connectivity between the two trestles was just fine. The wayfinding, we thought it was pretty good. The proposed route, the regular proposed route, there's about 5 intersections with about 2-3 directional choices at each, but as I heard, the signage should be sufficient enough to make that pretty easy for residents and for people on the trail. And the safety looks good because these are all relatively lightly traveled streets. Conversely, the alternate trail, if it's completed, also meets the connectivity. The wayfinding would also be very good because you're basically there's a couple fewer intersections, so the wayfinding is pretty good. And the safety, anytime you're talking about an off-street trail, that's usually your safest bet. But we found both of them to be nice, and we're really excited to be part of the trail.
Is there anyone else who wishes to comment? No? You came with your signs and everything and you're not going to comment now? Okay. So we did have one question about Canadian National. I know we did meet with Canadian National. I don't know if Director Tungate, would you like to comment, or Director Radke? You guys can both go at once if you'd like.
Well, as you stated, we did meet with them, geez, a month and a half ago or so, a little bit more.
Something like that.
I think that we were well received by the representative from Canadian National. There's a little more homework to do on the characteristics of the crossing and to actually finalize and formalize the crossing itself. And at this point, we're still waiting. I did hear from that person a week or two ago indicating that she has not forgotten about us and that she will be getting back in touch with us. It's just that her plate is very full right now, so I think we're just in a standby mode with Canadian National. But to respond to the person's concerns, yes, that is a very key component of this whole project, and I came away very pleasantly surprised and feeling good that we will be able to come to terms of agreement with Canadian National for this crossing.
Oops, if I turn that on, that works better. If there's no one else from the public, we'll call the public hearing to a close then, and we'll move on to the next item, which is item E, public comments on any matter of concern to the city. Is there anyone who wishes to make a public comment this evening?
Hi, I'm Kathy Stahl. I live at 44 De Pere Street. I had contacted Alderman Krautkramer on January 20th in regard to a street sign issue at the Broad Street exit to the city parking lot behind Club Liquor. The issue came to my attention when I heard Doris Szymanski, owner of Club Liquor, speak of her struggles with the city alleyway that leads to her store from Milwaukee Street, and I felt compelled to reach out and get her some help with this situation. She is literally losing business. Her customers state they can't get to her store because the alleyway is blocked, and yet the Broad Street exit is one way, prohibiting any relief to this congestion. I know Doris has spoken to Mayor Merkus numerous times, and he stated that this exit could be modified in the spring to accommodate two-way traffic, but Doris doesn't have this kind of time. She has already struggled through the parking ramp construction, and with the current setup with delivery trucks, it will continue to be an issue. The remodeling of the Corona Club and the newly acquired addition to the weather vane will continue to cause alleyway obstructions. And I've taken a few pictures to demonstrate what I'm speaking of, because it's kind of hard to verbalize, but these are a couple pictures that I took to bring the blockage issue to the attention of Alderman Krautkramer. And let me see, I would like to share these if I could. If I can start with Director Radke. So that was the current situation during the Corona Club's remodeling and the alleyway. There were literally construction vehicles blocking that for more than an hour as they emptied debris from the Corona Club. And I realized that that was a temporary situation, but there continues to be construction going on. And now with the weather vane, there'll be even more. And this is the current situation as it stands today with remodeling back there. The construction vehicles are using the knockout in the alley to park their plaster truck. So there is really only one lane through that alley, and when delivery trucks come through there, it creates a blockage. And there's no way for people to get all the way down that alley to the other stores at the end. During my conversation with Alderman Krautkramer, he stated that he could certainly look into this matter and help Doris out. The plan that was presented by the mayor in his January 27th Facebook release does not state if construction will actually begin in the spring, and this could be as much as 4 months from now. My original request when I spoke with Alderman Krautkramer was to see if this issue could be added as an agenda item, the options discussed, timing given for action, and let the public comment. My goal was also to learn if something could be done sooner to make the current exit a two-way opening. I since have spoken with Alderman Krautkramer, and he did say that in the next council meeting, this would be an agenda item. But I would also still like to add that, Doris has already run the gamut of official rebuttals and resorted to asking me to escalate this issue. I've heard the mayor state several times now that he is behind the downtown business development and revitalizing our economy. And I wonder if this is a conditional statement. Are some downtown business owners more valuable than others? How does a store owner that has been in business for over 46 years get pushed to the back burner and left to adapt on her own? If supporting the downtown business owners is a priority, then why hasn't this exit reconfiguration been part of the original ramp reconstruction plan? The safety issues regarding a blocked city alleyway alone should be sufficient to require immediate action on this Broad Street exit. I ask that attention be given to this parking lot's setup sooner than springtime. Relying on the police to resolve blockages is not an efficient use of our resources. A plan needs to be vetted that facilitates the movement of all traffic, including emergency vehicles, through this alleyway during the growth and development of our downtown. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to comment this evening?
I'm back. Sandra DeVille Taylor, 545 Broad Street. Item K, distribution of the remaining funds of the closure of TIF number 1. Again, I'll put a little clarification. My comments really don't have anything to do with the Landmarks Association. What it has to do with is that after roughly 30 years and millions of dollars that were invested in TIF 1, it's finally closing, even though it was distressed at one time, and there was a lot of financial issues with that project. But when it was first implemented, there was a promise to the taxpayers when that TIF is closed and the surplus increment gets distributed to the overlying taxing entities, the technical college, the county, the school district, and the city. Now granted, we're lucky we have anything left over. There's roughly $4,000 that's coming back to the city. That money was promised to the taxpayers as taxpayer relief. And you have a resolution in here to spend it. Granted, it's only $4,000, but if it was $40,000 or $400,000, it's the principle. It was a promise made to the taxpayers that these TIFs are going to generate a higher tax base that's going to help the development and the city in the long term. If we spend this increment on pet projects, it's not helping the taxpayer. And what you're trying to do now is allocate it to the Landmarks Commission for their facade improvements. And that might be, a needy cause, but there's other needy causes throughout the city too. And I think actually it's the taxpayers that probably need the break the most. Again, it's just the principle of the matter. And I think it should just go back in the general fund. On a side note relating to the Landmarks Commission, I noticed in their minutes that are part of your packet, there was discussion regarding making the west side of Racine Street in a historic district. Now, I'm curious because when we had discussions regarding the Racine Street Bridge reconstruction, I had brought up, why are we taking out waterfront property that's currently paying in excess of $10,000 a year in taxes and not looking at reconfiguring the intersection of Main and Racine Street to preserve that waterfront tax base. And I was told from community development and the DOT that they could not touch anything on that portion because that was historic district. However, Landmarks is now, at their last meeting, designated that as historic. So obviously it wasn't historic back in October. So I don't know if someone's not being totally honest, but I think it was rather sleight of hand. If that was the only way to get the DOT to put the roundabout and that intersection where you want it. Thank you.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Sir?
Andy Muth, Fox Street. I want to talk about these roundabouts. We don't need them in Menasha. Nina's got them, Oshkosh has them. Green Bay's got them, my good God. I don't understand why you think we need one. That's all my comment.
Is there anyone else who wishes to comment this evening? Ma'am?
Hi, my name is Amanda Torres. I live at N7916 State Park Road in Sherwood. I'm not sure if this is what I'm supposed to come up, but I have recently applied for my bartending license, and it was denied due to some trouble I had gotten into.
We can let you speak at that point in the meeting if you'd like to
Okay.
speak then. And then we'll have opportunity to ask you a question if we need to as well.
Thank you.
Thanks. Is there anyone else? Seeing no one else, we'll move on to the report of department
Mayor.
head. Oh,
Mayor, we had Brian speak on a few things. I wonder if Greg could speak on a couple of the issues with the Landmarks Commission that was just brought up.
Those were things though in public hearings, not on, so
Same
those
thing,
aren't,
but that's
those aren't on the agenda, but we can talk about those things at a later date, yes.
That's fine.
We'll move on to the report of department head, staff, and consultants. We have the minutes and communications to receive this evening. Alderman Taylor.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve and receive minutes A through I and communications J and K.
Is there a second? Second. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. We should have someone taller help you do that. There we go. Item G is the consent agenda. There are 8 items on the agenda this evening. The minutes to approve from the Common Council meeting of January 18th and the Special Joint Common Council and Water and Light Commission meeting of January 18th. The Board of Public Works recommendations from January 18th for a change order for Northeast Asphalt, new street construction and reconstruction. It's a deduct of $11,151.55 and a payment to Northeast Asphalt for new street construction and reconstruction for $28,263.69. This is the 7th payment and the final payment. The recommendation for the authorization to execute conveyance of rights in land for the 3rd Street Bridge replacement projects from the City of Menasha to the sanitary sewer from the City of Menasha doing business as Menasha Utilities and Electric, and the City of Menasha doing business as Menasha Utilities Water Main. And the recommendation to authorize to execute a 3-party design engineering services contract for the Broad Street reconstruction to Taco Street, reconstruction from Taco Street to Racine Street. Also, the Park and Recreation Board recommendation on January 12th to the revisions to the Park and Rec program services and fees for 2016. And the Joint Park and Rec and Plan Commission recommendations from January 12th of 2016 that Menasha's portion of the on-street bike pedestrian route along Doty Island as part of the Loop the Lake project, with the route commencing on Lawson Street, proceeding north to Fox Street, then west on Fox Street to Mathewson Street, then north on Mathewson Street to the Fox River. In addition, keep open the possibility of considering in the future the alternate off-street route along the shoreline behind the water treatment plant. The trail approach to the new bridge should be placed on the east side of Mathewson Street right-of-way, and that route marking should be done with signage, although sharrows could be used if necessary. Would anyone like any of the items separated this evening? Alderman Taylor?
Items 7 and 8, and I think some items shouldn't be on this consent agenda. I don't think that was the intent of consent agendas.
Any other items that anyone would like separated? Seeing none, do we have a motion for the remaining items? Alderman Taylor?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion for items 1 through 6.
Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call, 8-0.
Do we have a motion for item 7, the revisions to the Park and Rec program services and fees for 2016? Alderman Benner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, I make a motion to approve item number 7 of the consent agenda.
Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Alderman Taylor?
Director Tungate, could you explain the picnic areas, the fee structure that we're going to be implementing and why that is?
I
The
think you're-
non-electric picnic
The
area.
non-electric picnic area. Yeah, that's, well, this would be a new fee. We have about 8 or 9, I think, total picnic areas in Jefferson Park. And we do charge currently for an electric site. 2 or 3 of those have electricity, so the other 6 or 7 do not. So what we do, and the reason we decided to go or want to go this route was because for that $10, for example, a resident books that, you will be guaranteed a trash container and a picnic table there. So there is some staff time involved with setting up. If somebody would book a picnic area, so is this going to happen a lot? I don't think so, but it's a nice, I think a nice benefit that some people will take advantage of.
Do the residents, if they want to go down and have a picnic on a table down there, do they have to have that reserved?
No, they don't have to. So this really won't impact anybody who just wants to go down and sit at the table and do whatever they want in the park. It's only if you want to reserve, that's fine.
Okay, and if somebody had a big family and they wanted 4 picnic tables and a trash container, that would be provided for that fee?
Yeah, there'd be an upcharge. I want to say it's $3 per table, so you get 1, and then so another 3, probably cost you another $9 if you wanted that many tables.
And then the pool rental. What is the staffing structure on that at $155 an hour?
We look at the hourly rate. I think we base it off of 7 lifeguards and 2 attendants and a manager. So we've bumped that up to essentially cover that cost.
Last summer I witnessed a party there, and what I saw, there was only 1 person in the pool, 1 supervisor.
Well, yeah, that would be the assistant manager, somebody in charge. Could be the manager or an assistant manager.
And I don't recall seeing any lifeguards or anything for that.
Well, there should have been lifeguards there if they were, maybe they were out of the water at that point, but they certainly should have been on duty if they were in the water.
I really saw this party get out of hand firsthand. I was out on my boat in the river with another alderman and some other people, and we heard very obscene language being on a sound system out in the middle of the river, and it was racist, it was vulgar, and it went on and on. And I know I did call you at home, and we had a discussion about it, and I did stop at the pool and watch the situation. There was many violations: alcohol, glass, public urination. There was almost, I don't know how big of a crowd you have to have a riot, but there was probably 30 people that almost got to the point where pushing, shoving, swearing, to the point where...
Alderman Taylor, is this about the fee structure, or?
This is about the fee structure and how we would possibly look at having enough people there to control a situation. And by that fee structure, I want to make sure that in a situation like this.
If you'd like to discuss that, you should probably send it back to the park board then and have them discuss the policies regarding
All right, I'll make a
use
motion
of
to
the
send
pool.
this back to the park board then.
Is there a second? There's a motion, a second, to send this back to the park board to discuss the pool rental fee as well as the standards and policies behind that. Is there any discussion?
It's mainly public safety, Mayor, is what I'm after here.
Sure. If you want to have different policies behind that, though, that would be where you would discuss that. You want to bring a motion.
And I was just trying to see if the fee structure covered all that extra public safety. That's what I was asking here. That's what I was.
But you didn't ask what the policies were, and that's really what you would need to
So
discuss.
send it back and have them take a good look at it.
that's-
I'll make the meeting on that time too.
That's fine. Is there any further discussion? James, could you turn your light off to see if anyone else has discussion? Alderman Benner?
I'm just curious with these possible policy changes, is it going to affect the fee structure? Like, is there an expectation that maybe we'll be charging more to have more support? Or like in this case, I think about it, if I would have witnessed that, I probably would have called the police to help support the park staff that was there. And so I'm just curious if, because we're here to talk about the fees, not the policies. And this is going back to the park board. I would assume that they would be looking at what the pool rental fees might be if additional staff is required. Is that the spirit and the intent of the request in the second?
Alderman Taylor?
That's exactly what, if you'd like me to isolate just the pool rental and keep the other fee structure, that's fine. But I did immediately call Director Tungate at home and made him aware of the situation, what was happening. I stood there with my phone out, ready to dial 911. So it got to that point where I came this close when this pushing and shoving with this large crowd started. So it's a situation that what I felt more concerned with was the safety of our employees, and that the situation was almost to the past their control. And I want to make, if we're going to have a large pool rental, we should have the proper staff there to ensure the safety of everybody. And in a situation where someone else can handle the situation to kind of a combined thing. So, if you'd like, I'll isolate this one, turn it back. Okay. And that was the intent of this, and then to see if there's enough dollars here to cover. That's why I asked about the staffing, how many people we have there, and to make sure in a situation like that we could keep the policies that are intact, no alcohol, sound systems, extra sound systems brought in, and Tracy Music nowadays is, I think profanity and racist it shouldn't be projected from a public place like this. Thank you.
There's a motion, a second, to send this to the Park and Rec Board at the next meeting. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Item 8 is the on-street portion of the Menasha Loop the Lake project. Is there a motion? Alderman Benner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This time I'd like to make a motion for consent agenda item number 8, the Menasha's portion of the on-street bicycle pedestrian route along Doty Island as part of the Loop the Little Lake project.
There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Alderman Zelinski?
Thank you. Director Tungate, what were the discussions? I missed the last park board meeting because I was down south. What were the questions on the parking? And what were the resolutions for it?
Well, there's a list of things. The Plan Commission minutes indicate a lot of the items that were discussed that night during the joint meeting. And parking and restroom facilities for trail users and availability of on-street parking were discussed. I think the general consensus was there was plenty of on-street parking available in the Shepherd Park area, and we didn't necessarily believe that that was going to be insufficient to handle the parking down there. I, on record, as saying as a plan B, as a sort of a what-if scenario, you know, could Shepherd Park, you know, a portion of that be carved out as a parking lot? Yeah, it could be, but I think that's sort of the fallback plan. I believe that, at least initially, that the on-street parking will be sufficient. However, there is a, you know, sort of a plan B if we need it.
What would the parking limits be at this point? Because the trail's open 24/7, and there's that short street there that's going to be at the head of the trail. Would there be parking limits or time limits? Because sometimes the fishermen will come at about 3 o'clock in the morning and be fishing.
Well, I think they'd have to follow the city parking guidelines as they are right now. I think the thought was that, you know, in front of Shepherd Park, you have a reasonable amount of on-street parking there.
Well, we might not. And it's going to be parking in in front of some people's houses. And I lived at one of these areas where the street parking is all the time, 24/7, and the things that happen aren't always good. I'm not going to be negative about the trail. The trail is good, but sometimes there's some elements that come down there that aren't going to be liked, and I don't want these neighbors sitting up all night watching to see what's going on in their neighborhood.
Car door slamming.
So I think that's got to come back, the parking issue, and how late the parking's going to be and how long fishermen can hang out at the pier. I guess it's going to be 24/7, because it's going to be a fishing pier. I wasn't too happy about the route where it was going, but a lot of that's already taken care of already. The railroad crossing. It was mentioned that there was some railroad cars parked across it. Is there going to be concessions that the railroad's going to come for? Did they ever come for concessions where we crossed trails before or crossed railroad tracks?
Well, I think just to echo what Mark said, I think all of us came away with that meeting feeling pretty optimistic that the railroad was going to be cooperative, and we were expecting to hear other things from them, but we didn't really hear them. So we're, I think, optimistic that this is, you know, going to be, we'll be able to obtain this crossing.
And this was the first discussion you had with the railroad?
First face-to-face discussion.
Since the trail location was...
I think there was some emails and there was some other contact, but this is the first face-to-face meeting.
Okay, I think I'll be waiting to hear what the next meeting brings and if they're going to ask for some other things from us. Time limit. The route, you know, there's going to be a lot of special events possibly on this trail because it's a 3-mile route. There's going to be running races and running, walking, and are we anticipating special marks in the street and parking restrictions?
Well, marks on the street, I don't think so. Parking restrictions, I guess it would kind of depend on the size of the event and that kind of thing. I guess the good thing about a running event, or, you know, you usually, you know, through an area fairly quickly. You're not, you know, out there for hours.
Okay, well, that should be brought up at the park board possibly meeting. Or I don't know how many special events might be planned for this, because Nina's going to be looking at and Menasha. So they might have 3-4 events going on in this area. The land along the sewage plant, was that reserved for a special item when the city gave up part of the park for the sewage plant expansion? Was there any thing that they put to reserve that piece of property along the river or along the lake?
I don't think so.
But it's our property, or we would have to get an easement?
I think we have to get their permission, is my understanding, but I don't know the answer to that.
And I did see something in there about $164,000 to put this trail in if we wanted to.
Yeah, we did some preliminary cost estimating. I think it was for roughly a 1,200-foot trail. I was anticipating certain thickness, width of asphalt and lighting, and I think it said 132,000 in the memo. It's between 132, 142,000. It's sort of the ballpark number that we put to that. And that excludes any land acquisition, if there would be any. There's some We Energy properties there, I think, on the south side there that may or may not have to be obtained. So that was not factored into that number.
Was there any discussion of just cutting that out and putting a gravel path in there so these people know that it's probably going to be coming? Because if it doesn't happen right away, a lot of times these things just never happen. There's never enough money.
No, we just talked about if we were going to do it, let's pave it, let's put a hard surface in.
I would like to see it reserved and have that discussion with the proper people at this time. See if we could get the easements and see how receptive they are to it. Because we have time right now. You think that would be a bad thing to put the gravel trail in now? Because a lot of the trails, when you ride your bike, they kind of end and they turn into gravel trails, and there's just as many people using those gravel trails as they are the paved ones.
I mean, that's a thought. I think it's not necessarily my call on that one, but that's you know, it's an idea.
And all the streets, are they wide enough for adding a bike trail on one side without restricting parking?
On the bike, on streets.
It's just a road, though, it's not a marked trail.
Well, I'm afraid it's going to be a marked trail soon after it gets opened, just for safety problems, or safety issues.
I think that's why the motion indicated that if there were any markings, it would be the sharrows, and that's meant to accommodate bikers and traffic together. So there'd be no intention that I'm
Hard to see the sharrows.
could foresee where we're taking away parking for that, no.
But if we did put designated bike path in there, you can still share it with your cars, and because they're marked white, they can be shared.
No,
But
the intent of bike lanes
Yes.
is not that they're shared with
For
vehicular traffic.
turning into your driveway and stuff, they're
Sure.
shared.
Mhm.
So how wide would the street be? Do we have any issues with any of the street locations at that point on this route?
Well, I think the recommendation was made under the assumption that there would be no bike lanes, that, you know, we're talking about sharrows that, if we get to that level, because of the volume of traffic on those streets is light.
We like it that way.
And you know, so I just don't think that it meets the threshold for need for bike lanes.
Well, everybody thought that along Appleton Road too, but then look at what we...
Yeah, but Appleton Road, I mean, you're talking a lot higher traffic volumes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
I saw you pressing your button. Oh, Alderman Taylor?
First of all, somebody said to me, "Are you campaigning on company time?" I said, "No, I'm not. What this button says is, I have better hair than Trump." So it's not a campaign issue. Just stating a funny fact that I thought. At budget time, Alderman Zelinski and I brought this issue up, and we were kind of thrown under the bus as being negative because we asked a lot of questions about future costs, and by no means if Alderman Zelinski and I want to perceive this as a negative project. It's a positive project. I love parks, I love waterfronts, I love trails. It's all good, but you know, the buck stops up here, and we're expected by the community to vet all these different concerns and troubles that we may run into. And first of all, we had a neighborhood come up here and say, you know, we don't want this in our neighborhood. And I don't think we've quite been fair to the neighborhood and answered all their questions and did a comprehensive impact study that is what's going to really affect them in their daily lives. In my district, for 10 years now, we've had the trestle trail at the end of Broad Street. When I was out getting signatures, tremendous complaints. Summertime, any type of nice weather, these people can't park within 2 blocks of their house. They have a birthday party for somebody, their family's parking 2 blocks away. I've tried to address this problem with the mayor, and we've walked down to that area, and we're still not taking care of that problem. Now we're adding another problem to the city. And this is going to be a trailhead. This is going to be a starting and ending point for a lot of people because of the bridge at that point. And the impact on this neighborhood is going to be real. And it's think of your own house if you had to park 2 blocks away. None of us would like that in our front yard. I don't think we're being fair enough to this neighborhood, and I hope it's not social economics, but I kind of think it might be. I think this park study hasn't been complete, and we do need a parking lot there for this trailhead, and we have a city-owned property there to make this happen, and it does come at a cost, and that's, if we would look at the whole comprehensive development of this section of Loop the Lake Trail in our city, it would show us all the costs, which Alderman Zielinski and I were trying to do during budget process. And it also addressed the safety concerns, the neighbors' concerns, and by doing that, by getting us all together and working on this project comprehensively, we're going to come up with the best possible plan by involving the neighborhood, taking care of their concerns, which we haven't done yet. This is when a project really shines. Instead of coming back and willy-nilly this thing and taking care of, it's always the problems, and then it diminishes the project. I didn't like the fact that on all the signage and the maps that Doherty Island, Menasha isn't on that map. I mentioned that to the future Neenah people. I think that was an insult to the city not to have City of Menasha on Doherty Island. According to their map, it's Neenah. They've taken over the whole Doherty Island. I don't accept that as good advertising or marketing for our city. Do I think that this trail somewhat bypasses our downtown? Yeah, I do. But is it good? And hopefully as the whole process grows, people are aware of our downtown and travel through it. Neenah has identified 2 parking lots they have built for this trail system. And they haven't worried about street parking in front of other people's homes or businesses. They've addressed the problem with 2 parking lots, and we haven't done that. I wish I had the minutes from the Canadian National Railroad meeting so I could be more informed about this. This is the elephant in the room. And we all know when you're dealing with the railroad, in the past, when we wanted the Jefferson Park Trail to cross at the end of 3rd Street and Brighton Drive, it's a quid pro quo. They're not going to deal with us unless they get something, and we had to close 2 street crossings for them to get that crossing there. So what's coming next? What street crossings are they going to probably ask us to close in the city of Menasha to get that access to cross that trail? That's just a huge problem. They use that area down there exclusively as a switching yard, and they know that, and I don't even think it's legal, but they do what they call a flying boxcar. They'll back up, they'll pull a pin and let the car float down the track by itself. It's dangerous if you have people around because a car traveling by itself isn't very loud. Somebody might not see it, and certainly you won't hear it. So it'll be very interesting for this alderman to see what the Canadian Central Railroad does, because they're not just going to roll over and say, yeah, this is it. And if they do, wow, that's something else. And again, the other elephant in the room is this parking situation for this neighborhood. And, you know, we should be looking at how we could possibly screen Mr. Goss's property more than anybody's. There should be a berm there. There should be some sort of arborvitae screening or something. We're talking on this film we just looked at, 350,000 people. I mean, that 350,000 people, if that statement is correct, that they're advertising, that's a red flag. That's a huge red flag. But it's also, as far as commerce, as far as economic impact to the city or something, that's great. But let's think about these people that are paying their taxes, and we're trying to change something. And let's try to look at this as a comprehensive impact to these people. For instance, we just made a video for the city, Your Place on the Water or whatever, and when I see comments and I'm referring to is the park draft minutes from January 12th, and that security concerns associated with more remote trail route along the lake. We're talking 1,200 feet. We have a conservancy that has, I don't know if it's miles of trails, but it's in a wooded area off the highway. Boy, why do we have that? You know, also we got to make this big deal about the remote trail, you know, that it's a serious problem. And if you look on the map here provided by to us, half of the current trail system without the loop to lake is in remote areas. There's not any traffic by it. So half the trail already has that, but apparently it's not a concern until, you know, we make it a concern of having a 1,200 foot section of trail. So I'm kind of disappointed with statements like that. Also, we have Heckrod Wetland Reserve, which has many trails that are, as they say here, remote trails. And something about when this neighborhood first brought this to our attention back in the fall, someone told me, go down and look at that behind the treatment plant, and you will be surprised. And I did go down there and look at it, and show this picture to you guys. And that trail system is just waiting for us, and it's just a natural fit. And Your Place on the Water is what we're calling Menasha now, and this is the sunset I happened to have when I went down to photograph that night. And what more beautiful of a waterfront do we possibly want in our city to showcase something like this? And we already have public land. Both communities own this land there. And this would take, in Menasha, this trail out of the neighborhood onto a trail section. And as we enter towards Fox Street, this fence can be pulled back and we can loop it into Shepherd Park, where hopefully we have a parking lot. We have the restroom area, the picnic area, and then the only time that this trail section would have to be in the street is by Mr. Goss's house for that short, I don't know how many 100 feet of Fox Street. And we could have a controlled intersection there to cross that. So, you know, the benefits of this outweigh just running this through the neighborhood, and it takes care of their concerns too. But this is what we need to look at as a comprehensive plan. I think we should find out if we can use this property. Both cities own it. As Alderman Zelinski said, we should lay the screenings ahead of time. You let that impact and settle through the snow and the rain before you put if you want to do blacktop back there. Maybe you want to keep it more natural. Maybe you want to have the hard pack screenings, which so many trails have in the state of Wisconsin. But the key is here, we haven't taken care of the citizens of Menasha that live here and are going to be impacted by this. And we need to, I don't know if it needs to go to a parking committee or back to the park and rec. We have plenty of time to put in the final section of this trail on paper. As Director Radke said, it's huge, the Canadian National Railroad. So I don't even know how we can put anything in print before we even get that elephant taken care of, and then take care of our elephant, the parking situation at that part of the trail. It's not pleasant to have a district that I have with this problem with the parking situation at the end of Broad Street. And we're going to have to identify that at some point. But we should have looked at the whole project. $300,000 for the bridge, $80,000 for a parking lot, the rehabilitation of the park shelter, bathrooms, and other issues. We should have looked at it as a team meeting of different entities. And I guess I just had one more question for Director Tungate. We had heard a couple things that the neighbors were in favor of this and the neighbors weren't in favor of this. And what was your, how did you view this, the situation with the trail?
Well, at our July meeting, yes, there certainly were folks like we're here tonight that voiced their concerns. But I have heard some positive things, from the neighbors down there. But there's I guess some mixed feelings is probably the best way to characterize it in that neighborhood.
What I see on here is 16 items the park board looked at, and I only see that 11 of them are only really 5 of them are answered and or addressed, and I think there's 11 that aren't addressed. And I would like I don't think we have vetted this enough and come up with the answers for this neighborhood, and we're going to have to address the parking situation. And I think this should go back to the park board, and we should look at these concerns on here that are not addressed at this time. And I would like to also have the park board meet with the Menasha Sewage Commission and find out what access we could possibly have to this. And I think that'll help answer problems in the future. And maybe it's for us to go out and fundraise for this. What a beautiful area here to showcase. And maybe there'll be some fishing piers put out here. I know the state of Wisconsin has a lot of dollars for things like that. And we have a problem with fishermen on the trestle with casting, with people walking behind them. But when you put the docks all parallel to the trail, you eliminate that problem. So I think it's a win-win for everybody here to have a more of a comprehensive look at this. And if we need to break it down in different committees, we can do that too. The lighting problem back here, who knows, the utility back there may be looking to update the lighting as far as when the LEDs and everything start coming into play. This facility here, the treatment facility, has to have a lot of outdoor lighting, and maybe it's an opportunity here to co-mingle a couple ideas together here and share some dollars. So there's endless possibilities to this, and it only gets better as we all work on this together. It gets better and better and better. And I think it's a beautiful, beautiful area that we're not showcasing. And this is our kind of our next step for Menasha to, your place on the water, and to have a beautiful place like this on the water and not showcase it. I think we're selling ourselves short with that. So I would like to make a motion to send this back to the park board and have them address some of these issues for the neighborhood and for the city. And also meet with the treatment facility to see really what our answers are. And in the meantime, we'll be waiting for the Canadian Central to come back, and we'll find out what their decision is and what they want us to do or what they want us to give up. So I think that whole plan, it all kind of fits since we're waiting for that too. So I'll make a motion to send this back and address the action items E on the January 12th draft minutes from the Park and Rec Commission. And also to meet with the Menasha Sewage Commission.
Is there a second? Alderman
I'll
Solomsky?
second that for discussion, just because there's a lot of unanswered questions.
Discussion on that? Alderman Nichols?
I think my discussion would follow that line regardless. I attended the joint Park Board Plan Commission meeting regarding this topic. And the Plan Commission discussed this trail at length, and it was mentioned that bringing this trail to the Plan Commission was actually an extra step in the process that wasn't required, but that the city decided to follow through with based on the concerns, some of the concerns from the neighborhood, and to get some extra questions answered about parking and the trail following the waterfront. And the alternate route that's been described by Alderman Taylor was not thrown out by any means. It is something that everyone was still willing to consider in the future after seeing how things progress with the trail, the on-street portion of the trail. So it's by no means off the table, and it's something that can be revisited in the future. And it also became evident that many people have been involved and engaged with the neighbor at the approach of the new trestle bridge and his concerns about his driveway and people entering and exiting off of that bridge, and that those issues are being discussed and worked on as the process continues. So I just wanted to relay that to everybody, and to thank everyone who has been involved, the staff and the neighbors, in working on this and working through the concerns. And it's my hope that the dialogue between all of those involved will continue as the project moves forward.
Is there further discussion? Alderman Taylor?
We have plenty of time to discuss this, and I think there should be a committee formed, an ad hoc committee with the neighborhood group, the city, and other parties that future NENA to address these problems. We have some very shortcomings here on this list of action items, and the only thing I saw about on this, because I wasn't at the meeting, was security concerns associated with a remote trail along the lake. So that doesn't tell me any of the discussion that was discussed, except that somebody was concerned about a 1,200 feet of a remote location. And but the two elephants in the room are Canadian National and the parking situation for this neighborhood, for our citizens, for their homes. These are their castles. This is their front yard. If it was done in somebody else's front yard, and if the social and economics were different, I will guarantee you it would be addressed. And the Broad Street one is being ignored and we keep ignoring it. So there is no hope for these people that their neighborhood isn't going to turn into the Broad Street issue. The only hope they have is that we try to address this as the city leaders, that we take care of their problem, and we're not doing that. We're putting our head in our sand and seeing, kick the can down the road. We can take care of this problem. We could look at this problem as this moves forward. We could budget this item in the upcoming budgets to take care of this parking lot. The park department needs to address this problem. They have the parking, we have the public land, we have the public land for a trail. This is what this is, it's a trail. And how we can just keep kicking the can down the street. These people have been here since July talking about this issue. And we can't ignore it any further. We have to move forward, and we have to identify it by taking this back to the park department, let them work on it, or have the mayor establish an ad hoc committee and let the ad hoc committee work out the differences. But we just can't say we're going to take care of it in the future, because we haven't done that with Broad Street.
Alderman Better?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of comments. I'm the one who made the motion on behalf of the Plan Commission, and in the motion, there was a piece in there to keep open the possibility of consideration of future alternate route, so that did not die. So it was always there, it's always on the table, it's part of the motion, it's part of the document that goes along with this. As far as the parking, I was just looking at the minutes and I didn't see it in there, but as far as the parking, Director Tungate's position has been consistent all the way along that Shepherd Park is the location for the parking and restroom accommodations for this. And part of my motion was based on that mindset that's the plan and that's what would happen if this came about, so it didn't turn into the Broad Street situation as you discussed. And so I won't be supporting this because those items are already in place it's already there, it's already open, although you do have, in my opinion, for the Canadian National Railroad, that is certainly consideration, but it sure sounds like from city staff that we're in a positive direction on that, and it's something that can always come back for discussion also. But I would like to ask a question of staff: is there urgency with this motion tonight? Or what is the urgency on this at this time, other than just trying to stay uniform with Nina to keep this moving in the appropriate progress?
I can talk a little bit from the discussions I had with Amy Barker, and correct me if I'm wrong, but part of the fundraising effort revolves on knowing where the trail is, what amenities can be sold on those bridges, on the trail route itself, that the trail's actually going to be there. Those things are all important to finish that final segment of the fundraising. If the two cities can't decide where the trail's going to be, how is Future Nina supposed to convince corporations and donors to get behind this project as well? So I think it's important to continue moving that along. Am I speaking fairly on behalf of Mrs. Barker? And I think the other thing we need to think about is that trail, like you said, that waterfront segment can be built at any time.
Right.
What we've put in place here doesn't preclude that other section being built. We're not wasting anything if we decide not to build it or if we decide to build it. It's still, the landing is the same regardless of what happens with that other segment.
Yeah, and the biggest consideration with that other section was lighting and safety concerns, and that the police were able and folks were able to provide the security and safety that's necessary for the folks using the trail too. So also one thing we really didn't mention, that I didn't mention, was that on Matheson Street, we did move that trail over as far to the east as what we could within the easement to accommodate the neighbors in that area also. So that has been addressed, and there's really not much else that we can do with that portion of the trail where it goes to the bridge. And so I think with those things, that with the consideration that's been done, and granted not everybody was here for all the dialogue between the joint park board and plan commission, but I think all those things have been talked about and addressed. I think this stuff's been documented, and I'm not going to be in favor of postponing this tonight. Thank you.
Alderman Zelensky.
Thank you. Brian, you mentioned something about the footings for the testing for the footings of the pier or the dock, not the dock, but the trail. It's coming to you. Did they mention anything or engineering?
What I heard today was Grafe, the engineering firm that we're dealing with, is trying to set up a meeting with River Valley Testing. They're the group that actually did the borings in both the Nina Channel and the Menasha Channel. Just those two entities are just trying to go through the data. They just haven't set up a meeting yet, really, is what's happened. So it's been done. They just have to analyze what they've found.
So why are we discussing this? Why is there a rush on the street section if we don't even know if they can put the trail in that location?
Well, I don't think it's a matter of if they can. It's what type of footing, at what depth, and all that sort of technical below the water stuff. But there is a way of doing it. It's just a matter of which way.
At what cost also?
Right.
Okay, because I remember asking this question, what about relocation of that, or are they just going to test one site?
They were only under contract to do the one angled bridge route from Mathewson over to the Trestle Trail, and the similar situation over in Nina, one preferred route.
Yeah, we talk about this loop around the lake, but now it's a loop through people's neighborhoods and stuff. I could be sold on the loop around the lake if it was going along the sewage plant. That would be a loop around the lake. Right now, it's a loop through somebody's neighborhood, and then we might do this stuff. We'll consider it. I don't think the consideration's gonna be there because we have to put in so many other miles of trails on the other side of town. This one's just gonna be forgotten at that point. If it's not spelled out that we're gonna do it, I feel it's never gonna happen. And I would like some change in this wording, and somebody might agree with it, that we will pursue the easements for the route of the trail. And not possibly put it in, we will put it in. Because there's nothing about parking yet. There's gonna be something else coming up, and this neighborhood's gonna be forgotten. And there's never enough money. I feel that we're going in on the cheap on this end, just to run it through their neighborhood. That's the cheapest route to do it. Why don't we get the dollars figured out to do this thing right the first time, not just tell them that it might happen and then they're gonna be forgotten. Some of these people are gonna move on shortly after this, and it'll never happen. That's my feeling. I don't know if anybody else feels the same way.
Alderman Taylor.
I live on Broad Street, and I see the safety concerns with a trail through a residential neighborhood. And anytime we can have a separate trail isolated from traffic, I see parents coming down the street, and different parents travel different with their children with their bikes. Sometimes the kids are way out in front. Sometimes the parents are out in front. Sometimes one parent's out front, one parent's in the back. And by isolating this trail to an actual trail, the safety, and this is looking at this in a comprehensive plan, which we should be doing. All the driveways that we have throughout Clausen Street and Matheson Street, these are all potential conflict points with people backing out the driveway. We all know that day, we're running late, everything's happening, and you back out, and you just didn't see. And in my neighborhood, I see it. We have little kids on these little tiny bikes, and you can't see them when you're backing up. You can't see it. And if we have an opportunity to make this safer and take this out of the residential neighborhood and really call it Loop the Lake, not Loop the Neighborhood, and take these potential conflicts and potential dangerous situations out, and I'm not poo-pooing this whatsoever. All I'm saying is if we have an opportunity to, like the state of Wisconsin, like the Canadian National Railroad, anytime they can get rid of a crossing, which you're going to probably ask us to do, and get rid of one of these conflict points, it's safer. And looking at this as a comprehensive plan, and all these questions need to be out there. We need to cross the T's and dot the I's, and we're not doing that. We're not doing that with the number one thing that's going to make this thing happen is Canadian National Railroad. And we shouldn't be getting out ahead of that too far. It's almost like what happened with our steam plant. Our 80% customer never came on. This is the big customer here, the Canadian National Railroad, and we should be more concerned with that, and we should be getting that data before we can even make a decision on this. And we should be getting the data back on, on the footings. Different footings cost different money depending upon what's out there. And we have no guarantees to these people from the park board. And I don't want to trump the park board by bringing it to the council and say we're going to build a parking lot here. I think it's the park responsibility with the trails, with the park, to establish a parking lot for this. It is a trailhead. We can start out with a small 12-stall parking lot, 20-stall parking lot, whatever. The park board decide where they want it, how they want to screen it, how that fits into the trail, if this trail happens, or if we stay on the street. But there's three major questions here that we think we have to identify before we can move forward with this project. And it's all about safety, and it's all about having this done right the first time, instead of coming back here and keep, nicking away at it. Let's get it done. Let's get it done right the first time. That's what's neat about a project. These people are going to go home tonight and they're thinking 350,000 people coming to their neighborhood, and 350,000 people with conflicts with every driveway. It's not a good situation. And here we have an opportunity to change that, and also to take care of their needs with 350,000 people coming and parking in their front yard, literally. So let's just take our time and go back and get these questions answered before we make a decision up here.
Is there further discussion on?
Yeah, I just have a question, since I wasn't involved in some of the previous meetings. Aside from the safety concern, what were the other obvious reasons that the alternate route wasn't chosen versus the proposed route? Because I think I would agree with some of the statements up here. All else being equal, my obvious inclination would be to have a route on the waterfront, especially since that is our, new campaign and everything. And quite frankly, when people are on trails, that's probably what they want to see more, right? So I'm just curious what the obvious choice was for that, or what the obvious benefits of the proposed route was, just for my own knowledge.
I think one of the points that was brought up at the joint meeting was commuters desiring a route while recreational users place a higher value on aesthetics. And I was just writing a note on that. I think that the commuters will use the direct route. If you have a nice paved trail along the lake, 90% of them won't use it because they want to get from point A to point B as quickly as they can. I do agree that the recreational user probably would like to be along the water. And that was brought up at the meeting. I think that's a valid point. And I think the other thing was the cost. That number, 132, 140,000, whatever the number is not in the future NENA fundraising budget right now.
I think we also have to remember turnaround. Alderman Taylor brought some really pretty pictures. Turn around 180 degrees. You're within 10 feet of a sewage disposal pond with the prevailing wind going towards the lake.
Yep, I thought about that. Very fair point. That's why
That's not where
I
it's
wanted to
snowing,
kind of
though.
to open it to discussion, so.
That's not where it goes. The snow comes right across the street miles.
Pardon? It goes towards the lake quite often.
No, not really.
regardless, it's about 10 feet from the trail in some cases, if you do that. Alderman Taylor?
Yeah, and these people live across the street to it, and it stinks over there, does it not? Yeah, at times, sure, but we're going to put them through their neighborhood. It still stinks on either side of it, Mayor. That's a really moot point. And if you go on, I went on Google Earth, and I went to other communities because the treatment plants are usually on the waterfront. Go on Earth link to Traverse City, Michigan. Same situation we got. Put the trail behind the treatment plant, put a bridge next to the treatment plant, and generally we have the westerly wind, so the odor will be behind you, and that odor is all our fault up here, everybody. It's all part of, we've all contributed to it equally, I think. So, I just wanted to ask Tina's question here was, only one other time was this brought up. Back in October, I asked Director Tungate to look into the possibility of this when it was brought to my attention. That's when I went down here and looked at that. Up to this day, it hasn't been brought back to us. This is the first time we saw any type of dollar amounts or even discussion on this item. So this, you haven't heard anything different than what we're hearing right now because there wasn't any other information. It's just my directive to him to look into this situation. And again, $20,000 worth of screening gravels would open this trail up immediately. I mean, to get it prepped and ready as it settles, to get this going. And then I talked about the lighting situation, probably with the Sewage Commission on doing this. But please go on to Google Earthlink and look up Traverse City, Michigan, and it'll give you a nice picture like this, and it shows you right where the trail is, and that they put a bridge in like we're doing, and they utilize their waterfront even though it's in front of a treatment plant.
Alderman Benner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to comment on that on January 8th, there was a memo that went out to the Park Board and the Plan Commission that threw $132,000 on there, excluding land acquisition. So this was out there. That was part of our dialogue. That's one of the reasons why the motion reflects the ability to continue to explore this so you can do it. And as far as it going by a wastewater treatment plant, just like anything, those things are part of our community. They are what they are, whether it be a factory, whether it be a treatment plant, or whatever it is. They are what they are, and sometimes that can be part of that trail, but that's up for the community to decide. And I think one of the biggest deals is that we get the fundraising going so that this can happen. The bridge location isn't going to change, and that trail off the end of Matheson Street really isn't going to change, but we can continue to explore that. And obviously you're very passionate about it, and you can keep that momentum going and continue to discuss it and figure out where the dollars are going to come from, to do the lighting, to do land acquisition, and to effectively do that. And there's no reason why it can't continue. In fact, I'd like to hear it continue because I don't entirely disagree with what you're saying. But one thing I do feel very strongly about is that we need to continue to work with our neighbors, and these folks are putting an extreme amount of effort into fundraising to make this all possible, and that we keep it going. And so there's nothing that says we can't do it. I'd love to entertain it and hear about it and continue to have discussion about doing the alternate route. That's why it's in the motion, so it can do it. And trust me, even after the motion was made, there's a lot of dialogue between our community development and the park board to make sure that that component stayed and continued on as part of this, So, and I was part of a lot of that, several phone calls actually. So, I think the tools are in place to do it and to continue to do it. And if it's possible for it to come to fruition, I can't see any reason why it can't, as long as we continue to keep moving in that direction, if it's something that truly is viable. But I agree, it requires more discussion and more thought, and certainly more money. And the monies is not part of the fundraising, and that's the main purpose for making this continue to go now, so that fundraising can continue to happen, and we keep this moving in that direction. Thank you.
Alderman Taylor?
I appreciate what Alderman Benner said, and let's do this, and I want to make a motion to...
There's already a motion on the table.
Okay, I will withdraw that motion.
Okay.
But I would like to make a motion that the parking lot item appears on the Park and Rec agenda until it is addressed and brought to the council.
The motion that was on the floor that you withdrew was to recommend to refer this to the park board. And once you withdrew that, then the motion that's on the floor is to approve the route. So I'm not sure how that motion would
My
work.
other motion was much more comprehensive than that. If you want the clerk to read it back, we could do that,
you
but it
can't-
wasn't as you said, Mayor.
But you can't tell the park board what to
I'm
do.
asking for an item to appear on their agenda.
So I don't think you can.
Okay, then I'll do this. I will send back, I would like to send, I would ask Director Tungate and his staff and Park Board to look at the parking lot situation on Fox and Matheson Street in Shepherd Park.
That would not also fit with the current motion on
Okay,
the
then
floor.
I'll
You
do it
could-
this way, as Alderman Nichols does. Attorney Captain, help me out with this on how we may accomplish this for the Park Board to look at this parking situation.
Would you like to?
There's currently a motion on the floor. You cannot withdraw it because it was seconded and it is before the body. So first of all, there would have to be agreement among all the common council to withdraw a motion that has been seconded.
Sure.
Okay. Then we'll be on that. If he wants to do what he wants to do, how would he accomplish that? If he wants to get something on the park board agenda, can he accomplish that through a motion?
No. The park board sets its own agenda. Something can be a recommendation to the park board to consider, or the item that is on the agenda can get referred back to the park board. But to actually put something on their agenda cannot be done by this body.
So you can make a motion to recommend to the park board.
Correct.
That they consider a parking lot.
Correct, yes.
I didn't hear all that.
Sorry, my voice is a little hoarse. After this motion is completed, you can make a motion to recommend that the park board, to make a recommendation to the park board that they consider a parking lot in the Shepherd Park area or something to that effect.
Gotcha. Now we got to dispose of the first motion.
Well, your motion right now that's still on the floor, unless Dan removes his second, is to refer the whole thing back to the park board. Correct?
Correct, I want to go back to the park board.
Okay, so Dan is not removing his second. Okay, so the motion on the floor is to refer to the park board at this point, the whole thing. And there's no more discussion, so could we have a roll call
Yes,
vote?
there's one more.
Okay,
I'm on the park board, and I sat at the meeting when we met down at Shepherd Park. They had a lot of questions about the Shepherd Park. Shepherd Park is a forgotten park. If you don't know that, just go down there. It's forgotten. And there was more opposition to this trail going through their backyard than anybody here is mentioning. I didn't hear one person there that really wanted that trail in their backyard or their street. There was a lot of discussion about that. I said, basically, this is a foregone conclusion because I was their only advocate there. There was another alderman there, but she left about halfway through the meeting. I don't know what for, because it started to get kind of heated at that point. So there's a lot of discussion that has to be had about this, and I want it back at the park board. So I'm sorry I wasn't here for the last meeting. I was on vacation, and I had a lot of questions to be asked at that point, and I wanted to go back to the park board because these things are just considerations. We're keeping them open. But there's going to be much more needs in this city. We're going on the cheap down there, and there's much more needs in this city than just this. And when we get to that east side of town, that's where we're going to really have discussion, where the cost of trails really go through the roof. And they're going to be all forgotten at this end of town. So I want some more discussion on this.
Okay, so there's a motion right now to refer this back to the park board. Seeing no further discussion, could we have a roll call vote on that? Oh, Mike, you didn't vote, Mike.
Once again, I didn't. I'm going to clear it out because Alderman Keenan's didn't, so you could ask me to vote again.
If you could vote again, Mike's did not register for some reason.
Still.
Do you want to tell us which way you voted, Mike? So Mike voted no. Okay. Then you can count the rest.
It's a tie.
So
Alderman Keehan
so
voted
I'll vote no as well then.
Okay, it would have failed.
Excuse me.
Thanks, Don.
Wow, that's transparency.
So the motion that's on the floor now is to approve the recommendation from the Joint Park and Plan Commission meeting of January 12th. Oops. That was the motion that was already made. Who made the motion, Debbie, way back when?
Look here. Can't remember that.
Okay, Alderman Benner and Keehan.
Okay, so Alderman Benner and Alderman Keehan made the motion. Is there further discussion? To approve the recommendation, yes. Alderman Zelinski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make an amendment to that we will designate a parking area and we will put the trail behind, or do the feasibility study on having a trail along the lake behind the sewage plant. Until all dead ends are met there, I want this all answered, and I would like that included in this, and that would be the future route for the trail if it's possible.
I'm not.
How would you like that worded?
Yeah, I'm not sure how you make that
I was just going to ask, what,
So basically, you'd like to amend it that the route will be the lakefront route.
If
and
possible.
there will be a parking lot.
And there will be a parking lot. This stuff's got to be addressed now. If it doesn't get addressed now, it never will.
I don't think you can say if possible because everyone will have a different opinion of what if possible means.
Well, if all of a sudden there's no land there for the trail, it's a dead issue.
Well, then it would have to come back to the body again if...
Well, then it would die at that point.
Economically feasible would be another gray item because for
Putting
one person...
Putting Sharrows out on the street and just saying this is the bike trail doesn't do much for me. Because these bikes are going to be scattered throughout that neighborhood. Unless we have a designated route without the Sharrows.
You want the route to be off-street is what you're saying?
Yes, as much as possible, and we can only get to that point at the other side of the sewage plant, and I don't know where it goes from there, because it's gonna have to come onto some streets.
Well, that's in
And we're gonna
Nina,
be
though,
on
at
the
that
Nina
point.
streets then.
Yes.
And then they can discuss this.
So, well, I think what you want to amend it to say is...
That we will.
You'd like the route to be the lakefront route.
Yes.
And that parking be included as part of the project.
Yes.
Which is basically saying the opposite of the motion, but I
And
think you can do that, correct, Attorney Captain?
Yeah.
For budget.
Study and a time deadline.
can I ask, where did you say, did you have a specific location for the parking that you wanted it to go?
Shepherd Park. Probably the southeast corner. That'd be closest to the trail. Northeast.
So the amendment would be indicating that the trail route would be the along the lakefront,
Yes,
with parking included at Shepherd Park northeast corner.
yes.
Okay, that
So-
can be an amendment.
Alderman Zelinski would make that amendment. Is there a second? So there's a motion and a second. Discussion? Alderman Taylor?
I think what we need to do after this is to take it a step further. I'm going to check into what it takes to have an ad hoc committee with involving the neighborhood on the location of this parking lot, how it should be screened, the other issues with the trail, if it's going to go through the park. To do this, the best we can do it is to involve a group of people and get all these answers taken care of. Up here, it's difficult for us. I didn't even know this existed till October. And until you get the people that are directly affected in that neighborhood, that area, and the other people, Director Tungate and maybe future Nina, get everybody working, get everybody in the boat pulling on the oars at the same time, and that's when we're going to come up with the best solution for this whole thing down here, instead of trying to manage this whole thing from our desk. We have a comprehensive plan come up from the basic and come to the council.
Alderman Benner?
Mr. Mayor, I think that, to me, be more feasible to have a environmental and financial impact study done on this and have a deadline on that, so that we could actually just sit down and look at what it's going to cost environmentally, what it's all about, how much it's going to cost to acquire land, how much it's going to cost to do lighting, get something back from the police department as far as security would go, and you can look at the whole thing from that perspective and make more of an educated decision on whether that's the place to actually put it, as opposed to coming out here and just saying right now that that's where it's going to go. I'd rather have again, an environmental and financial impact study done on this so we know exactly what the dollars are and how it's going to impact the environment as far as neighbors, water treatment plant, all those things. Are people going to be parking at the water treatment plant instead of Shepherd Park if that goes in, and use that as a trailhead, and how it's going to affect everything, rather than to just say that this is what we're going to do. And I'd rather see that motion reflect that, and then we can make that decision, as opposed to just saying that it absolutely is going to go in there, and we absolutely are going to have a parking lot at Shepherd Park, because a lot of this discussion on the parking lot at Shepherd Park is more of a thing, well, we could do it, but the park board really isn't a fan of taking dedicated parkland and turning it into a parking lot. And, you know, there'd be consideration for it, but after talking to the chairman of the park board, they're not really that hype on doing that unless they need be to help make the trail project successful. So I'd like to hear Alderman Zelinski's opinion on that thought.
Alderman
Thank you.
Zelinski?
I'm good with the feasibility study and a timeline on this, because we have to have a timeline, or sometimes things just don't happen. Even if there is a motion in a second and everybody votes yes, sometimes things just don't happen. We heard that about trails throughout the city. Sometimes they just don't happen because something falls through.
I'm not sure exactly what this study is going to look like. Is it an outside consultant? Is it?
It's probably going to go to the sewage plant first to see if there's even enough land there. The sewage commission, see if there's enough land there to do this.
Because we basically have a cost already to do it. What we don't know is if we can acquire the property from both the sewage commission and We Energies. We don't know if that property is contaminated at the We Energies site, that we would even want to acquire it, because it was a substation at one point, and there's also some very large gas lines underneath it, so I'm not sure if they would sell it to us or not.
I'm sure they'll need an easement or something for that, but I wouldn't throw up the road
No,
blocks about about contaminated property. We're heading this to Arrowhead Park, and everybody knows what's in Arrowhead Park, so.
True. I'm just not sure the city would want to acquire something that could potentially be contaminated. We could try to acquire an easement, though.
Yes.
But that could take months to figure out if we could acquire those things. So if we're just going to stop the whole project.
No, we're not gonna stop the project. The Sherrills will do what you need to be done.
Okay,
But
so
I still want this to go
you
forward,
want
but I'd
this-
like this to be the ultimate route if possible.
this study to happen within the next, any idea from staff how long we should give this? 3 months? Is that, okay.
3 months?
Okay.
So if that will sell it, I could remove my initial motion, add that feasibility study to this with 3 months timeline on it.
Well, we should also have what's included in that feasibility study, just so that.
We could be here all night.
I just want to make sure that we actually give you what you're looking for, otherwise.
Well, I want to give what the neighborhood is looking for, to soften their blow. That's what this isn't my neighborhood, it's theirs.
So we had a motion and a second that you're willing to withdraw, the both of you?
And adding the feasibility study, that's what I would like. James, can you remove the second? Or the council? I guess the council's got to agree.
Oh, well, so we need to, the attorney's shaking her head that we should really vote on that and vote it down and then move on to the next one.
It would, in order to remove something that has already been seconded, it would just, if both the person who made the motion and the person who seconded want to withdraw it, then if the rest of the council is in support of the withdrawal, that's fine, because then, but if someone wants to object, then that
Okay. Is there-
amendment would still be there.
Okay. Is there any objection to them removing the motion in the second? This is.
The
this was-
amendment that the lakefront route, that the route is the lakefront route and including parking at Shepherd Park northeast corner.
I'm trying to write down what I think he wants on the.
Be easier for
the
me to
study.
draw a picture, but that's not going to happen tonight.
So I think what you're looking for on this study to be completed by July 1st, is what we had said, was land acquisition, costs and availability. Construction costs for lighting, the trail itself, and a parking lot. And how big do you want the parking lot to be? Or do you want to study?
Parking ramp would be nice, but I don't think I get there.
You want 10 cars?
With a lookout on top so that we can watch the sun go down, but
You want 10 cars?
10 cars would be
Okay.
adequate.
And any safety concerns?
Well, that'll all be discussed. We could go with safety concerns all night.
Well, that the police department or
Yes.
others might have. Those are
Yes.
the,
That'll
those are
be
the
dis-
items that would be in there?
Yeah, and the time limit, the feasibility study, that take care of it.
Okay. So did you just make that motion?
That's the new motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Can I please ask what the motion is? I'm not certain I have it down.
Okay, yep. So this is, yep, so this is an amendment, again, to item 8. And Dan, did you want to read it, since it's your motion? Alderman Taylor, would you allow him to
Well,
make that motion?
first of all, I thought I had to remove my second from the last motion.
Oh, did you say no?
I didn't.
Oh, I thought you did.
Nobody asked me.
I
was
did.
waiting to, I was waiting to get the floor,
Okay,
so
You do not
everybody
wish-
can hear this.
okay. I thought that you did remove your second, so you
No,
did
I
not
never,
remove
I
your
never had
second.
the floor, Mayor.
Okay.
The people at home don't know that.
Okay, did
so
you
let's-
remove your second or
Let's keep it
not?
all straight. I'll remove my motion from Alderman Zelinski's first motion. That makes sense.
Okay.
And what I just heard was removing the second from the first motion.
From the amendment.
The First Amendment is long gone. The Second Amendment was also gone because there was a question if there was any objection by the council. So we're talking about the,
No, that was the one that he said he didn't remove his second. Okay, let's start here again. The motion that's on the floor right now, as far as I understand, is a motion by Alderman Benner and Alderman Keehan to approve consent agenda item number 8. Is that what everyone's understanding is right now? Okay.
And then there's an amendment after
Well, all the amendments were removed at this point. Yep. And Dan would like to make another amendment at this point. Okay, Alderman Zelinski.
Pam, the First Amendment was the land, the parking lot, and the trail designation, correct?
Lakefront.
Along the lakefront. I want that to remain the same, but I want the study done on it. And the 10 parking stalls.
Well, if you're designating that the route, then,
Well, there's gonna be a feasibility study. I'm designating it as the route.
okay, well, that's different then.
No, it isn't the parking. I said I'd like that as the route.
That's basically the
I would like that
same.
as the primary route.
Yep. Okay, so that's the same thing as what we just had on the floor then.
Yes, but there was
Except you
no,
wanna
there was
add
no
a
time
study.
limit on there and the feasibility study.
Now, before, what you were actually talking about is making that the route.
Yes.
And that's,
The feasibility study, you could throw it all out. If it's not feasible, it's not feasible, and we're,
feasible though is a relative term.
okay.
Unless you're gonna set a dollar amount or a time limit or a something
Well, I heard a dollar amount, but I didn't agree with that, but
that
that's beside
create,
the point.
yeah, that makes it unfeasible. You can't just, because otherwise your idea of unfeasible and mine is gonna be very different.
Do you want me to put a dollar amount on it?
I mean,
Is that
that's,
what you're asking?
well, if you're going to say that it's do a study, and if it's over this amount, it goes one way, and if it's under, it goes the other way, you can do that.
Okay, if I put a $200,000 number on that, is that what you're looking for? Because you wanted a dollar amount? Do I always have to have a dollar amount on it?
Well, I don't know
For
how
the
else we,
feasibility study?
I don't know how else you determine if it was feasible or not. 'Cause otherwise, everyone's opinion of feasibility would be different.
Okay.
Alderman Taylor?
I don't think we have to put a dollar amount on this, and I think we're bureaucrating the heck out of this thing. You know, if anything, the parking committee should look at it too. It's pretty straightforward. We all want to have a beautiful trail system and a safe trail system for our community, and by working forward and looking at different options, we're not all thinking the same up here, and that's good. And that's what we should be doing. And we should be involving this neighborhood and the citizens that it's affecting directly. They know a lot more. We can learn a lot from our citizens, especially when it's in your front yard. You would know exactly what you would want when something like this with 300,000 people is going to fall in your lap in your front yard. And these people have a voice, and they have a right to know what's going on, and they should be part of this process.
Okay. Well, let's kind of clear the air here a little bit. We have three options tonight. One, we can say we don't want to do this project at all and just deny the whole thing. Two, we can say we want a route, the one that was recommended by the two boards. Three, we can say we want a different route. We've had public hearings on this numerous times. We've had multiple board meetings, multiple committees. Sending it back to committee isn't going to change anything. We've had those committee meetings already. If that's what you want to do, that's, I guess, the fourth thing that we could do is send it back to committee. You can send it back to the park board if you'd want, or the, yeah. They can do whatever they want to with it, yes.
It's not going to change.
So, Kevin Benner, Alderman Benner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The intent of my recommendation to Alderman Zelinski was that it follows through with the original motion that the alternate route still be under consideration. We do a study that's going to tell us exactly what the impact is, financial and otherwise, bring it back to this body and let us decide if we're going to put the alternate route in or not. It's all that's the only part of it, and to put a deadline on it as to when that's going to come back to this body so we can make a decision. So it goes back to staff. Staff tells us what it's going to cost to acquire land, if there's environmental issues we need to be concerned with, if there's, you know, what the lighting's going to cost, what the whole impact would be to the city to follow through with this alternate route, and we can make a decision on it in July. That was the intent of my recommendation, not to send it back to committee, because you know what park board's going to say? We already made our recommendation. They're going to be done with it. So we just follow through with this, whatever this is, and then we can decide if we want to follow through with the alternate route and decide if we want to put a parking lot in at Shepherd Park. If that's really what we want to do, then that's what we do. If it doesn't work out, then at least the information is there, and either another council can take it up, or else it's still on the table and we can put it in the budget for 2017 if that's the case. But at least we get to make an educated decision.
So if I'm understanding you correct, you're advocating to approve the motion as stated and amend it to include this study?
Exactly.
Okay. Would you like to make that amendment?
That would be a friendly amendment.
Okay, well, I don't think it can be friendly.
That would be an amendment if you would like that.
That would be my amendment to the motion.
Okay. Do you want would you like the list of, have Dan pass you down the list of things, and if that's what you'd like studied?
Well, we have a motion on the floor right now.
But you can amend to include that if you'd like.
But the motion? Do you want me to say what the motion is?
The current motion?
The current motion is the first one, which is to approve
item 8.
Item 8.
Correct.
As it's stated there. Your amendment would add to that a feasibility study to include land acquisition costs and availability, lighting, parking, safety concerns, and maybe a couple things that I missed off that list.
I think that's...
To be done by July 1.
Okay.
And as far as the safety concerns, I think a statement from probably the police department would be in order. I don't know, but when I put it out there, I said June 30th, July 1, you know, just so they have reasonable time to do their due diligence, because especially land acquisition, environmental studies, it is winter right now. To get some of that stuff, you know, might be a little bit more difficult, whatever that may involve. And when's the trail supposed to go in?
Construction starting next fall.
Next fall. So we have time to still get this through and do it with our budget and stuff, with the July 1 deadline. So.
Okay, so that's...
Is that an amendment?
That's an amendment.
That is an amendment.
And we don't have a second.
Second.
Okay, so there's an amendment and a second. Okay, we are now, can you pass that back down to me too? Well, I might need what's on the back side. I'm not sure what's on the back side. Okay, so there's an amendment on the floor right now, as Alderman Benner just stated. Seeing no discussion on that, could we have a roll call vote on the, oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Nichols. I can't see your light because of the pictures up there.
We're talking about conducting a feasibility study here. Do we have an estimate on what the cost would that be from staff at this time? And this item also wasn't budgeted for, so where would the money come from and how would it be allocated?
The council would have to put this in the 17 budget if they wanted to build that portion. Oh, the feasibility study?
The feasibility study, that's the amendment on the table right now.
And this would be done internally. So there wouldn't be a budgetary cost. It would potentially push other work further out on the timeline though, depending on what their other goals and tasks might be.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion on the amendment? Could we have a roll call vote on the amendment?
Motion carried on roll call, 8-0.
And now we have a motion as amended, which is item 8, along with the feasibility study. Could we have a roll call vote on that as well?
Motion carried on roll call, 8-0.
Item I is action items. The first item is the accounts payable and payroll for January 21st through 28th. Is there a motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move to approve the accounts payable and payroll for the term of 1/21/16 to 1/28/16 in the amount of $1,435,255.09.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call, 8-0.
Item 2 is the beverage operators license applications. Do we have a motion for those recommended for approval? Alderman Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move to approve the beverage operator's license applications for the 2015 through 2017 licensing period as listed under approved in the police department's memo dated January 27th, 2016.
Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call, 8-0.
We have 2 licenses that were recommended for denial. Amanda Torres, is that you? Okay. If there's no objections from the council, if you'd like to state your case.
Hi, I'm Amanda Torres, and I do fully understand why I was denied due to my past history. I'm here on behalf of the fact that that was just a really bad year in my past, and I've done a lot gotten a lot of help, and I've received a lot of like AODA training and all that, and really turned my life around. I am a single mother of 3 kids going to school part-time for nursing, and could really use this job to help, provide for my family. So I'm really working on being a productive and responsible member of society. I haven't been in any trouble for the last a little more than 3 years.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Torres? No? Oh, Attorney Captain?
Ms. Torres, did you have an opportunity to read the letter that you received from Lieutenant Bouchard that was dated January 22nd, 2016?
Yes, I did.
And there are a list of convictions that are there. Do you have any dispute with any of them?
I do not have any dispute with any of them.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other further questions? Does anyone wish to make a motion for either approval or denial? Not everyone at once, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion for approval.
Is there a second? Okay. There's a motion and a second. Alderman Benner seconded. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to. Ms. Torres, where are you going to school for nursing?
Fox Valley Technical College.
How far along are you in your
I'm
program?
in my first semester.
Your first semester?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Alderman Keehan?
Hi. You mentioned something about AODA training or classes. Could
Yeah.
you talk to me about that?
For actually one of my charges, I was on probation for 18 months, which I had to do multiple different like parenting classes and different classes, and I've also done AODA counseling on my own behalf through Valley Health Services and through Outagamie County, or Calumet County, I'm sorry.
And that was around the same time period or more recently, or?
A little bit around during the same time period and then after.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any further discussion?
Yes.
Alderman
Thank you.
Zelinski?
Do you have a current driver's license now?
Yes, I do.
Is there any counseling that you're taking for, this is a wide range of things here.
Yes, I've done the traffic safety school, OWI classes, plenty of counseling for AODA, and then just personal counseling for like personal issues that I needed to work through that I thought were kind of the cause of my spiral out of control.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Alderman Kramer?
Were there any problems before 2012 as far as altercations with the police or?
No, nothing besides like speeding tickets and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Alderman Taylor?
Alderman Crocker asked if there was anything before. Is that correct? There was underage drinking in 2001?
Well, yes,
And there's a
that-
question mark.
On my application, yes, there was underage drinking in 2001, I believe.
And why did you put a question mark behind it?
Because I'm not sure if that's actually still on my record or if that was dismissed. But I wanted to be fully honest.
Does anyone have further discussion? Could we take a roll call vote on this, please?
Mr. Mayor, can I just ask a question?
Sure. Well,
Are we voting on approval or denial?
we're voting on approval.
On approval, okay.
Did everyone realize that we were voting to approve? We could start over if we need to here. Okay. I think you're the last one who hasn't voted yet, Kevin. Okay. Did you break it?
Motion carried on roll call, 5-3.
So you are approved at this point.
Thank you.
I don't know if, do you need to talk to her, Chief, on the way out, or? Okay. We also have a recommendation for denial for Mallory Monroe. I don't know if she's here this evening. No? It appears that she is not here. Do we have a motion? Alderman Keehan?
I will make a motion to deny the license for Mallory Monroe.
Is there a second? So motion and a second. Is there discussion? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call, 8-0.
Item 4 Item 3 is a change of agent for 13 Main Enterprises from Choi Robert Sharkey to Dean Reggie Hinsky, if I pronounced them all correctly. Alderman Taylor.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the change of agent for 13 Main Enterprises, RCK LLC.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
Item 4 is a Class B liquor license application for the Chicken Palace of Menasha, 1550 Appleton Road. Is there a motion? Alderman Keegan?
I will make a motion to approve the Class B liquor license application for Chicken Palace of Menasha, 1550 Appleton Road.
Is there a second? Second. There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
Item 5 is the tentative agreement with Local 275 as outlined in the January 14th, 2016 summary. Is there a motion this evening? Alderman Keehan.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve the tentative agreement with Local 275 as outlined in the January 14, 2016 summary and subject to ratification by Local 275 IAFF, recommended by the NMFR Joint Finance and Personnel Committee.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay. Seeing none, could we have...
Sorry.
Oh, I looked twice.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Director Stino, you and I had a conversation today about the changes in Article 12 regarding sick leave, and I was hoping you could review that in the easiest explanation possible for us. Thank you.
I'll try. So the change with bank sick leave, if you look at it this way, there's right now 2 tiers of sick leave with the Native Menasha Fire Rescue. The first tier is the regular accumulated sick leave, anywhere from 0 to 1,000 hours could be used or paid out upon retirement. There is then an area, what they call the donut, from 1,000 hours to 2,160 where there is no payout or accrual. Or there's an accrual but no payout, and then anybody over 2,160 hours and up has the Tier 2 benefit of a bank sick leave benefit. This essentially phases out the banked sick, the Tier 2 benefit, over a number of years. As you can see, new hires on or after 1/1 of 16 would not have any bank sick, and then you can see the way it would go with current employees depending on their balance of bank sick as of 12/31/15. Is that clear enough?
Yes, the other confusion I have is in that same area, letter B, number 1, new hires hired on or after January 1st, 2016, no banked sick leave?
They wouldn't get the Tier 2 benefit, correct?
Okay, so they would still earn a payout up to 1,000 hours, but the Tier 2 is being dissolved.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Alderman Keehan?
Was this ratified by the Local 275?
I believe they're ratifying tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Actually,
Yeah, I was just going to say it's being delayed until the 9th, I believe,
Yeah,
because of the weather.
President Leonard informed me that they're canceling tomorrow night's meeting because of the weather, and it will be delayed till the 9th.
All right, thank you.
Alderman Taylor?
I talked with Director Sino today and Chief Belcher, and Chief, the last item on their 13, just explain to me what, is this a uniform? Is this some sort of a jacket that they wear while they're fighting fires, or what is that?
The blower jacket.
Blower jacket.
The blower jacket is a dress jacket that they wear during inspections or during public activities that involve a more formal look rather than just T-shirts or something like that. And switching it to the department-approved jacket, that's probably still going to remain the jacket, but there are other manufacturers that make that similar jacket that would be acceptable is what it amounts to.
So we're not getting rid of all the jackets and buying all new jackets here?
No.
Okay.
No. It's just for new hires.
Oh,
That's where the
new
language
hires.
comes in.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Motion carried on roll call 8-0.
Item J is held over business. Item 1 is a motion to reconsider Resolution 216. Is there a motion? Alderman Taylor.
Mr. Mayor, I want to make a motion to reconsider R-2-16 resolution to approve the write-off of general uncollectible accounts, receivables, and delinquent property, personal property.
So a motion to reconsider does not require a second. It does require a 2/3 vote of the council, and is non-debatable. So at this point, we would take a roll call vote on allowing Alderman Taylor to reconsider the motion. Does that make sense? No? Director? Attorney Captain?
What a motion to reconsider does is, if approved, it would put the item that had been formally approved, so that would be that resolution to approve the write-off general uncollectible accounts, receivables, and delinquent personal property, that would be back before the Common Council for further discussion and then another vote. Or I suppose if somebody wanted to make amendments, possible amendments. What the ordinance indicates is that it doesn't require a second, but it does require a 2/3 vote of the members present.
So
the first vote, I believe, was 7-1. Oh, 6-1. Someone was absent.
okay, so does everyone understand what we're doing at this point? I think? Yes? So we need to take a roll call vote on allowing the reconsideration at this point, and it requires a 2/3 vote to pass.
Motion fails on roll call, 3-5.
Okay, so item K is ordinances and resolutions. Item 1 is R-316, a resolution approving the distribution and remainder funds from the tax incremental financial district number 1 closure. Do we have a motion at this time?
I guess I can't vote yet. Mr. Mayor, I, as council representative of the Landmarks Commission, I move to approve Resolution R-3-16. And this resolution will transfer the remainder of the funding from Tax Increments Financial District 1 closure to Landmarks funds.
Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Director Steno, I'm not sure if the person in the audience understood exactly what this was. This isn't a permanent thing. This is just a one-time funding, if you want to explain that as well.
Yes, so when the TID 1 closed as of April 21st, 2015, and all the closeout was done by the end of 2015, what happens is all the properties in TID 1 go back on the tax roll. So that's part of the TID closure. Then the second piece we need to deal with is if there are any of the remainder funds, and those would be one-time monies going back to all of the taxing entities based on the contributions at the last tax roll. It was only less than 1 year's worth of an increment. So this is one-time money that goes somewhere It can be for a special purpose, it can be general purpose. The council really is at leisure to decide that.
And it was first divided amongst the taxing entities.
Correct. And the 4,657 is,
Was-
659, 64 is the city of Menasha portion only.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Alderman Spencer, do you have discussion or? No. Okay. Alderman Taylor?
I would like the attorney to, it was brought up from the public that these dollars are supposed to be returned to the community and not to a private citizen. How does that TIF language say those dollars are supposed to be dispersed at the end?
They're dispersed in whatever fashion the Common Council decides that they're dispersed to, I don't read this as going to an individual, a specific individual. There's no individual name or anything on here. So
According to the minutes of the Landmarks Commission, it's going to an individual at, I think, 212 for the facade improvement. That's where the dollars are going to end up. And I guess I'll rephrase that question. Does the TIF document state, as it was stated earlier by the member of the public?
Oh, Directors, Kyle?
So the Landmarks Commission approved facade funds for 212 Main Street. That approval was completely independent of any consideration of the distribution of the TIF 1 remainder funds. It was from the current balance in the facade improvement grant and loan program fund.
The current balance is, at this time, without these dollars?
The current balance without these dollars is right around 13,000, and I believe that's after.
Yeah, the mayor didn't put in his budget any more money for that in 2016, correct?
No.
We did put
Now,
money in
back to the question.
one of the first years.
Director Kyle, is this what the public said here tonight? Is this what these documents say the dollars are supposed to be returned to the community?
I don't know what was being referred to there. Whatever indications or comments or whatever you would call them made by a previous council or any members thereof really don't have any bearing on what's being before you today. What happens is, as Director Steno indicated, we come to the end of the life of the TIF district, and those remainder funds are required to be distributed amongst the respective taxing entities. And what's being asked for here is to distribute the city's share to the fund that supports the facade grant and loan program.
But it could go to the park department, and we could put in an extra swing set, and the whole public benefits by it, but a person may be benefiting from this personally for their personal property. Is that correct?
That with any of the landmark grants or loans, there is benefit to private property.
Well, I would like to see how that document's written, and there's no rush on this, right? On these dollars?
Well, the question would be, what documents are you referring to?
Well, apparently when the TIF was closed out, there's some information that was, that said how these, from this TIF, from that document, how these dollars are supposed to be closed out.
They're determined by statute.
Yes.
Statutes say that those funds have to be returned to the respective taxing entities.
So, Director Steno, we would have to designate a fund in general that these would go to, correct? Either
So
the general fund.
By default, funds go back to the general fund. By statute, by default, I say if there's no special purpose identified, then it would just default to the general fund. But there's nothing in the TID documentation in the Department of Revenue law that says that has to go one way or another. It goes back to the taxing entity to determine what to do with those one-time funds.
So we could someone could put a resolution together for exactly what Alderman Taylor was saying, to put it in the Parkland, I'm forgetting what the Parkland Fund is called. but
Parkland Dedication Fund?
It could go into that fund, it could go into the library fund, it could go into any of our special funds, or it could go into the general fund. That's up to the Common Council as to where they would like to designate those funds to go.
I would certainly like to see it go for the general public and not for a facade on a personal property. On a public property, yeah, but on a personal property, no.
Is there further discussion? Alderman Benner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Greg, where's District 1? Does it encompass downtown?
TIF District 1, correct.
Does it, TIF District 1, yeah.
Okay.
Does it encompass downtown?
There, it encompasses portions of the downtown, and we've created some new TIF districts which overlap the original TIF boundaries.
So my mindset on this when I read this was that we closed out TIF District 1. To give the money back to the taxpayers, it made most sense to put the money back in an area from that tax incremental district. And so you're putting it in the facade improvement program, which we've been trying to improve our downtown. And to me, this seemed like kind of a perfect fit, that you just take that money, you designate it to something that we've been focusing on, improving the facades of downtown. And this helps enhance that program, and it keeps it within, or at least a portion of it, in that tax incremental district where the dollars came from for this. So in any time that you're taking taxpayer dollars that would fund like this grant program or anything else, we're giving it back to the taxpayers by funding something that we would otherwise be doing a budget item for, to create that grant, to continue that grant program that's been very successful for our downtown. And so that was my mindset on that, and I support this because of that mindset, that it keeps it within that tax incremental district. Giving it back to the taxpayers is, we don't spend any money here in the city that doesn't go back to the taxpayers. That's what we do. We don't give money out to private people without having a purpose for it, whether it be property improvement projects to improve a district, whether it be houses or downtown businesses or anything else. It just, to me, there seemed to be some logic to it, and this was a place to put it because it came from this district and it applied towards our downtown program. So I support this. Thank you.
Alderman Zelinski?
Thank you. How much was in the fund last year for landmarks?
I can only guess at a number. It was, if
I
I
have
were
it.
to guess it, okay.
I have it. 2014, at the end of the year, there was $7,698.
Did we use it all?
It's a rolling fund balance, so it doesn't replenish each year. Whatever's in there rolls to the next.
So the mayor designated 13,000 this year? Or how did
No,
we do this?
no, there was, because it's a loan and grant program, so some of the monies get paid back. So monies got paid back, monies got doled out, and the net effect of that at the end of 2015 was essentially the 13,000 that Greg is referring to. So it had a balance of 7,698 at the end of 14, and now it has a balance of approximately 13,000.
And we never had a deficit where we had to make a budget amendment to add to it?
I did a 5-year history, and I don't see any shortages.
So why do we need another $4,000 in it?
Well, because there is no source of funds to replenish the grant and loan program. This was originally capitalized from community development block grant money that was made available to the city to loan to businesses, the one business being the bankroll, the other being American Quality Fibers. Both of those businesses subsequently failed. The amount of funds that was repaid to the city was the amount that originally was used to capitalize this program. And so we've been, drawing down on that for many years now. And it will get to the point where we have a zero balance.
Well, realistically, it should have a zero balance at some point. The downtown should take care of the downtown. We just can't keep feeding it forever. I've been talking about this TIF 1, 2, 3, 4. We've been feeding it forever. We keep on telling this is it. We're done. It's going to take care of itself.
And if you look at the origin of the facade improvement program, it was to encourage businesses to invest in the downtown buildings, and the city garners the benefit of more attractive downtown, and ostensibly in the long haul gets us to a point where the businesses are attracting higher rents, we have higher property values in that whole scenario.
We could chase after this forever, but I know how much of it went to the landfill. That really is discouraging to me to put more in there and then put it in the landfill. We're talking about adding to the landmarks territory here, and then we put a storefront down on the west side of town, and then we put it all in the landfill.
Well,
and if we put this money back in the general fund, we can never take it back out of the general fund and give it to a worthy project.
You could, but you'd have to make a budget adjustment then at that point, or do it at budget time.
Because there's things that are going to run over budget even in the current budget. Things are going to run over, and you're going to be asking us for extra dollars. Shouldn't we have a little bit of cushion there, other than the emergency fund?
That's where it would go. The general fund, there's approximately, I'm not sure what the unreserved, before I say the wrong number.
I believe it's about 1.9 unassigned, 2.8 overall.
So that's the fund that it would go into.
I guess it really doesn't matter if it, I'd rather just see it go to the general fund, and we decide at that point instead of designating somewhere. If I had to designate it somewhere, I'd put it in the Department of Public Works to repair streets, where everybody uses it.
And that would have been another place that it could have been designated, yes.
Yeah, I would just like to see it go back in the general fund.
Alderman Taylor?
I would like to know what the author thinks about this, why you put this on there, what your opinion is on it.
I think,
Alderman Taylor, you need to.
I think the aesthetics of the downtown are very important to the community, and I think this fund has done a good job of helping improve the aesthetics of downtown. It's a rather small investment for the benefit that the community will receive.
Do you have further discussion, Alderman Taylor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm one of the biggest supporters of the Landmarks Commission and Historic Preservation, and but what I think should happen, like Alderman Zelinski said, this should return to the general fund, and if somebody wants to withdraw that money from the general fund to put into this project, fine. But I think the money from the TIF should fall back in the general, and if somebody wants to dip in there and take something out, fine, let's do it that way. But let's be responsible to the people, return their money to that, and not give it to a private citizen this way. If you want to give it to a private citizen through this program, fine. The mayor did not support this program in his budget, so why should we support this program if the mayor can't even put it in his 2016 budget? Why should we put on the spot for this? Let's put the money back in the general fund, and we'll take it out at another time. I'll make an amendment to return the money to the general fund.
Can you amend a resolution like that? Yeah. I don't think you can amend a resolution like that. You just have to vote it down, and then it would default back to the general fund if this resolution failed. Oh, I'm going to kick you off, Kevin.
So you're saying if we vote this down, the money goes to the general fund?
By default, unless someone else comes back with another.
Right, and let it stand on its own and let someone take it out of the general fund, but let's include everybody and put it into their general fund.
Okay. Now I'm going to let you speak, Kevin.
I just disagree with that because when folks approach the Landmarks Commission to do something like this, a lot of times the consideration is given whether they have the money to approve the grant or not to allow this to happen. And if the money's not there, then you just don't see the people come forward trying to make those improvements. And I don't disagree with Alderman Zelinski's mindset that everything downtown should stand on its own, but as I go through downtown, I don't see that it's standing on its own yet. And I think if we can help encourage the downtown to be more aesthetically pleasing, then I think we should continue to do this program. And once we get to that point that we're proud of the whole downtown and everything that's down there, then maybe we give it more consideration to abolish a grant program. But at this time, I think that this money should go in here and we should continue this program. I think it's been doing a lot of good. It continues to do a lot of good, and the improvements we're seeing in the downtown in the last 8 years have been substantial, and I'd like to see it continue.
I did just want to comment that we did fund the Landmarks grant program from the general fund in maybe 2010, do you think, Greg? Yeah, it was one of the first years I was mayor. We did fund, I think, $10,000 or $15,000 into it at that point as well. Alderman Taylor?
I was talking about the 2016.
Yeah, I
budget,
understood that.
Not ancient history. I agree, Alderman Benner, with what you say, but let's all put it in the general fund and then make a motion to take it out of the general fund. What's wrong with that? That way we can all clearly see the money went into there, and if you have a special program you want to draw it out for, let's do that. But let's put it back in the general fund so the public has it, and then let it stand on its own for you to take it out for a special project. Nothing wrong with that. Doesn't hurt anybody.
Alderman Nichols?
Thank you, Mayor. I think that the facade program has been and continues to be a successful program for our downtown. We're seeing a lot of fruits of that labor coming to fruition today, and it provides an incentive for people to invest in those properties, keep them attractive, which thereby encourages business and visitors to our downtown. And I think that we're choosing, this fund allows, this grant and loan program allows us to fund improvements by not, or it allows us to fund improvements without putting them on the tax levy, thereby not burdening residential property owners with that. And this continues that. These are excess dollars from the TIF. The properties within that TIF are now back on the tax roll, and the entire city will benefit from that in the next year. And this is a small investment to keep that program moving forward. And I support this resolution.
Alderman Taylor?
I may rephrase my question, Mayor. Why didn't you put this in the 2016 budget?
This 4,000 whatever dollars?
Why did you support the 2016 Landmarks facade improvement?
I do support the program. I just did not put any additional funding in it this year.
Okay, so by saying that, you don't think there should be any of the city dollars put in that program?
I did not allocate any this year. I'm not saying that I would never allocate any money in this program. I just did not allocate it in this budget.
I agree with the program. I think the program's fine, and all I'm saying here is that I want to put the money back, and I'll probably even vote on it if the money's taken out for this program. But let's put the money back, and then we'll take it out for a private property program. First of all, it's got to be given back to the public, and then we can give it to a private person if we want. But let's put the dollars. It's just good accounting to do it that way, and then let's bring it back. But let's vote on the Landmarks Commission. But let's put the money back where it belongs. If you think it's a good program, which I do, and I can support it, but let's just a formality.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please? Okay.
Yes, we did have a motion. Motion carried on roll call 6-2.
Item N is public comments on any matter that was listed on the agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on anything that was on the agenda this evening? Apparently Chief Stika does.
Tim Stike with the Police Department. There's one item, I know we had a lot of stuff on the agenda today, but there's one item under communications that I'm sure got skimmed over because of everything that was on there. But Chief Oxler did put in his retirement letter again. And I know, I did. But I certainly wanted to draw attention to that just because I know the department heads, the mayor and the common council certainly appreciate all your efforts that you've done over the last 37 years and 3 hours of this meeting. Certainly appreciate all your efforts, and on behalf of all of us, I want to wish you the best of luck as you try to find a replacement for your position over the next couple of months. Good luck. Appreciate all you've done.
Would you like to say anything, Chief Oxler, at this point, since he brought that up? Would you like to say anything as well? Okay, there'll be plenty of time in the later. Is there a motion to adjourn then at this time?
Adjourn, Mayor.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Oh my gosh.